Welcome back to VibeVision, where we take a deep dive into the classics that shaped automotive history and left an everlasting impression on car culture. Today we're turning the spotlight on one of the most iconic muscle cars to ever roll out of Detroit, a machine that defined both performance and attitude in the golden era of American horsepower, the 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge RAIV. This wasn't just a car, it was a statement, and even decades later it remains one of the most respected names among enthusiasts. Let's dig into what made this muscle car such a legend, starting with its commanding exterior presence, then diving into its performance heart, and finishing with a brief look inside. When you see the 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge for the first time, you immediately understand why it carried such an impact in its era. The exterior styling was bold, muscular, and unapologetic. The front end featured the instantly recognizable Endura bumper, a body-colored urethane piece that seamlessly integrated the split grills. This design gave the Judge an aggressive face unlike anything else on the road at the time. Pontiac wanted the GTO to stand apart from the crowded field of muscle cars, and with this design choice, they succeeded. The Endura bumper was resilient to dents and dings, a futuristic feature that matched the forward-thinking nature of the car. The hood of the 1970 Judge carried the dual scoops that were functional, not just for show. On RAIV models, these scoops were tied into the ram air system, feeding cold, dense air directly into the high-performance engine. The lines of the hood swept back into a long, aggressive profile that emphasized speed and power even when the car was parked. Along the sides, the GTO Judge displayed flared fenders, muscular haunches, and a stance that sat lower and meaner than many of its competitors. It looked wide, it looked planted, and it looked like it was ready to dominate the street or the drag strip. Perhaps the most iconic visual feature of the Judge package was the rear spoiler. It wasn't just for looks, though many owners today will say it completes the car's identity. Pontiac engineers claimed it offered some aerodynamic benefit at higher speeds, but even if the effect was modest, the spoiler gave the Judge an unmistakable silhouette. Combined with the vibrant paint schemes the Judge was offered in, such as Orbit Orange and Cardinal Red, it ensured that the car was impossible to ignore. Pontiac understood the importance of visual drama, and the Judge delivered it in spades with bold graphics, stripes, and the Judge decals announcing its presence proudly on the quarter panels. The wheels and tires also reinforced the aggressive look. Pontiac's Rally 2 wheels, often wrapped in wide Goodyear polyglass tires, added to the stance and grip of the car. Chrome accents along the window trim, dual exhaust tips peeking out the back, and that aggressive overall shape tied together a package that was as eye-catching as it was intimidating. In the late 60s and early 70s, when muscle cars were everywhere, the GTO Judge managed to stand out, not just for its performance but for its styling that screamed attitude. Now let's move under the hood and talk about what really made the 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge RAIV such a powerhouse. The RAIV, or Ram Air IV, was the pinnacle engine option for this car in 1970. Pontiac's engineers were serious about performance, and this wasn't just a slightly tuned-up version of the standard V8. The RAIV was a 400 cubic inch V8, but what set it apart were the high-performance components that made it a true street and strip terror. Officially, Pontiac rated it at 370 horsepower, but anyone familiar with muscle car history knows that these numbers were often underrated for insurance reasons. In reality, the RAIV was closer to the 430 to 450 horsepower range, and with its unique cylinder heads, high-lift camshaft, and improved breathing, it delivered power in a way that felt relentless. The Ram Air IV package included special round port cylinder heads, aluminum intake manifold, larger valves, and a higher 10.75:1 compression ratio. All of this combined with the Ram Air induction system meant this engine thrived at higher RPMs, something not all big blocks could claim. Where some muscle car engines ran out of steam past the mid-range, the RAIV pulled hard all the way to redline. It was paired with either a close ratio 4-speed manual transmission or a heavy-duty turbo 400 automatic, both with upgraded components to handle the massive torque. Pontiac also offered heavy-duty cooling and driveline parts, because the RAIV was built for serious enthusiasts who wanted maximum performance. On the street, the RAIV GTO Judge was brutally fast. With proper gearing, like the 4.33 rear axle option, quarter-mile times dipped into the low 13-second range right off the showroom floor. That was serious performance in 1970, and even today it's quick enough to earn respect. The sound of the RAIV at full throttle, with the ram air system gulping down air and the exhaust barking through dual pipes, was pure muscle car music. It was raw, it was mechanical, and it was everything an enthusiast could want from a performance car. Handling was often not the strong suit of muscle cars in this era, but Pontiac made sure the GTO had a bit of an edge over some of its competition. With a relatively wide track, decent suspension geometry, and heavy-duty springs and shocks, the Judge handled better than you might expect from a 3,800-pound machine. No, it wasn't a corner carver by modern standards, but compared to its peers, it inspired confidence. The power-assisted brakes with front discs helped rein in the car when needed, though fade could be an issue under heavy use. Still, the Judge was more than just a straight-line bruiser. It had a balance of performance that made it enjoyable on the street as well as the drag strip. What's fascinating about the RAIV GTO Judge is that it represented the absolute peak of Pontiac's muscle car engineering before emissions regulations and insurance premiums started to choke the life out of the muscle car market. By 1971, compression ratios were dropping, horsepower numbers were falling, and the golden age was coming to an end. But in 1970, the Judge with the RAIV was a pure, undiluted expression of performance. It was Pontiac saying, "This is the best we can do," and enthusiasts recognized it as something special. That's why today the RAIV Judge is one of the most collectible and valuable muscle cars, commanding premium prices at auctions and car shows. Taking a quick look inside, the 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge balanced sportiness with a degree of comfort. The interior wasn't flashy in the way the exterior was, but it was functional and driver-focused. The dashboard wrapped around the driver with clear, easy-to-read gauges, including a large speedometer and tachometer. Optional hood-mounted tachometers were also available, giving drivers a way to keep their eyes on the road while monitoring engine speed. The three-spoke steering wheel was sporty, while bucket seats with optional headrests provided decent support for the era. Upholstery options ranged from basic vinyl to more upscale trim, allowing buyers to customize their car's personality. The Judge interior also offered some luxury touches, with wood grain accents on the dash and door panels. Center consoles were available, housing the shifter for manual or automatic transmissions. While rear seating was available, the car was really all about the driver and front passenger. It wasn't cramped, but it wasn't designed for maximum comfort either. It was a performance car first and foremost. Options like air conditioning and an AM/FM radio could be added, but many buyers focused their money on performance upgrades instead. Stepping inside a 1970 Judge today feels like stepping into a time capsule of raw muscle car culture. It's simple, it's purposeful, and it's authentic. When you take the entire package of the 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge RAIV, the aggressive exterior styling, the raw power of the Ram Air IV engine, and the functional yet classic interior, you begin to understand why this car has achieved legendary status. It wasn't just another muscle car. It was the definition of the muscle car ethos, bold, powerful, and unforgettable. The Judge wasn't subtle, and it wasn't meant to be. It was designed to turn heads, to win races, and to capture the spirit of an entire era. Looking back, the Judge RAIV represents a moment in time when American car manufacturers were pushing the limits without compromise. Before regulations, before oil crises, before downsizing, this was the era of pure performance. Pontiac's marketing slogan for the GTO Judge was, "All rise for the Judge," and it truly lived up to that name. It demanded respect then, and it continues to demand respect today. So, whether you're an enthusiast who appreciates the engineering, a collector who values rarity, or just someone who loves the attitude of classic muscle cars, the 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge RAIV stands tall as one of the greatest of its kind. It's a car that tells the story of an era, and every time one fires up its engine, that story comes alive again. This has been VibeVision, bringing you the details, the history, and the passion behind the cars that shaped our culture. The 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge RAIV wasn't just a car, it was a legend on four wheels. Dash dash dash.